Be honest now, which line looks longer to you? You might be tempted to say the top one, but in fact, they are equal in length. And which circle looks larger? You've probably guessed by now that they're the same size. However, one still appears much larger than the other to you. These optical illusions demonstrate that our brains are easily deceived by visual tricks affecting our perception of size and space. So why not use these visual tricks to our advantage in decorating our homes? Well, this video is going to do exactly that. This is the vertical-horizontal illusion. The vertical line always appears longer, even though they are actually the same length. Why am I telling you this? Because we can use this bias in our perception to our advantage by adding vertical lines in our homes to make the space appear taller than it is. For example, we can opt for wallpaper that has a vertical element or paint stripes into a space where we really want to accentuate the tallness of the ceiling. Or hang curtains with vertical stripes to really elongate our walls. We can also use bookshelves that reach close to the ceiling to draw the eye upwards, hang art vertically, or stack smaller pictures to form a vertical line. Anything that goes vertical will make our eye travel upwards and think that the space is taller than it is. Selecting furniture that hovers close to the ground changes the visual weight of the room and also expands the amount of space that you see between the ceiling and the ground. This creates an impression of higher ceilings, giving your room an open, airy feel. This is similar to how open landscapes like deserts and wide plains can make the space and the sky appear incredibly vast. So if your space is feeling a little bit cramped and the ceiling a little bit low, not only should you opt for vertical elements in the walls, try to keep the bulk of your furniture lower to the ground. Floor direction matters. Often we don't think about the direction in which our floors, like our wooden planks and tiles, are installed, but this can make a difference to how your eyes perceive the amount of space you have in your room. Laying out the floor parallel to the longest wall can visually stretch the room, making it appear longer than it actually is, because our eyes naturally follow lines. Color plays a massive role in how we perceive space. Lighter colors, especially whites and neutrals, have the power to make us feel quite relaxed, whereas dark colors like black, grey, blue can feel a lot more oppressive and limit the amount of space that your eye perceives. When you have a room that's full of light colors, when light comes in, it bounces around all the different spaces, which expands the amount of volume you perceive the room to have. But when you have a room with dark walls and dark floor and dark ceiling, it tends to absorb the light, so visually you feel like the space is just more compact. If you paint the ceiling a lighter color than walls, it can transform how you perceive the height of your room. Light has a natural tendency to draw our eyes upwards, and a lighter colored ceiling has a tendency to amplify this effect. For example, if you love the color blue and you want to paint the whole space blue, maybe leave the ceiling white or an even paler shade of blue just to create this visual contrast. Mirrors aren't just for checking your reflection. They are powerful tools that can make your space feel brighter, larger, and infinitely more inviting. Sometimes we're not as smart as we'd like to think we are. Our brains interpret the reflection from a mirror as additional spatial depth to a room. So if you have one room and on the other side you completely covered it with mirror, your brain knows that all this additional reflection you're seeing is not more space, but somehow the room just feels to you like it's double the size. So if there are areas in your home where you feel like the space could feel larger or it's just really, really dark and needs more light, hang up a mirror where you think there should be more light reflected. Reflective furniture takes the concept of mirrors one step further. These reflective surfaces catch and scatter light, essentially behaving like multiple small mirrors in a space. So if you find your room feeling very dull and claustrophobic, maybe by upgrading the materials of certain furniture pieces, you can brighten up the space and make it feel more expansive than it is. So a couple of examples of what I'm talking about could be a glossy lacquered coffee table, a reflective side table. But before going crazy and covering your whole space in foil, remember that this should be used sparingly, because if you have too many reflective surfaces in the home, it won't feel cozy anymore and it'll feel really, really artificial and unnatural. So be selective in the pieces where you want it to be shiny. Just as the Ebbinghaus illusion tricks our eyes into perceiving the same size circles as different based on surrounding elements, the furniture in your room can similarly deceive or distort our perception of space. And in a small room, you might think that it's better to fill it up with lots of small furniture, but actually, if you can pick 1 or 2 oversized large pieces, it can make the room feel quite grand, as if the space is large enough to handle such grand furniture. But the key here is to not overcrowd the space. The oversized elements can anchor the room, giving your eye a focus and making the surrounding area seem more open by comparison. How you design storage in a space can make the room feel either cramped and cluttered and claustrophobic, or clean, calm, and expansive. If you have a small space and you want your room to appear larger, create built-in storage that looks very organized, neat, sleek, and clean. The less our eyes have to dart around the room to process individual elements, the more comfortable and expansive the room feels. So don't have all of your items, books, clothes out on display. Instead, hide it beneath some flush cabinet doors. Clutter is an arch enemy of small spaces. Don't do it. Just like a messy desk can make you feel overwhelmed, a cluttered room can make your home feel suffocating, causing low-grade stress you might not even be aware of. Imagine 2 types of spaces. One where every single surface is filled with trinkets and objects of different size, colors, and another room where maybe half the surfaces are empty and the other half are kind of, carefully curated with a few large statement objects. The first room with all of the trinkets feels a lot more messy and chaotic and therefore claustrophobic and cramped, whereas the second room feels a lot more expansive and calm, and somehow the space just looks a bit bigger. So in a small space, less is more. Reduce the clutter, reduce the visual chaos. If you already have a lot of small items, try to group them into a slightly larger surface so it looks like you have a big object rather than lots of tiny little ones. During the night, you can use uplighting to make your room feel taller than it is. When the light source travels upwards, it elongates the visual path your eyes follow, providing more vertical space for your eyes. And by shifting the focus to your room's height, our silly little brain now perceives the room as having more volume than it previously had. Curtains are not just the enemy of light, they're companion to your windows, the eyelashes to the eye of your house. They can also change the perception of your room size, like everything else I've mentioned so far in this video. So when you're hanging your curtains, instead of just putting them a little bit above the window, put them all the way up. This echoes principles similar to the vertical horizontal illusion we talked about, where it just kind of enhances this vertical element in your space, and suddenly it makes your ceiling look much taller. And similarly, if you want a room to feel a lot wider, instead of just having teeny tiny curtains, why not just put curtains on the entire wall? This way, the whole wall looks more expansive and makes your room look more stretched out and wider. The perfect way to use curtains to make your space feel as large as possible is if you use a horizontal vertical illusion, push the curtains all the way up to the ceiling, stretch them out so they cover the entire width of your walls, and use vertical patterns and make them light colored. Amazing! Now we're using full principles that we talked about in this video in one go. I think we should end our videos there. There's like no higher point. We have reached a peak of small space advice. Thank you for watching. Stay subscribed if you want to be updated about future videos that I make around design topics. And in the meantime, maybe you'd be interested to check out some of my other design advice videos. Oh, and if you have some ideas about content I should make, drop it in the comment below so I can add it to my to-do list. Thank you. Bye.